Guilty Gear Strive is easily one of the best games I've played this year, and it's not hard to see why. From the fast-paced, expressive gameplay, the stunning visuals, and the banger-filled soundtrack, Guilty Gear Strive quickly caught my attention and caused me to pour over 90 hours into it. But one of the best attributes of Strive is the ranked experience. While most games manage to make the ranked mode incredibly dreadful and stress-filled with little reward, Guilty Gear Strive manages to make you want to improve and get a better rank. But how has it made a usually exhausting player experience into something worthwhile? To first understand this, let's look at something a lot of modern games lack: visible improvement. When you're playing a game a lot, improvement is often expected. Progression is one of the main reasons we play video games, and skill progression is one of those parts of progression. This is the reason ranked modes were made in the first place, to give a more physical representation of the progress that we've made. Nearly every competitive game has this ranking system with medals or ranks or however progress is tracked. However, what's lacking for a lot of big competitive games is the lack of visible progression. My ranked experience with Valorant was being stuck in one rank while not really noticing what was holding me back from higher ranks. Therefore, growth was not happening or visible to me. One of the reasons for it is that modern competitive games are simplistic to a fault. The basic tools for victory are almost all easily accessible from the start, and the only way to differentiate yourself from other skill brackets is application. Or to simply aim if you're playing a modern shooter. This is good for accessibility, but not really that good if you want concrete proof that you're improving. And Strive, on the other hand, has a ton of different techniques which the difficulty comes from integrating into your kit, like a typical spectacle fire skill ceiling. You may only start by using your normal attacks and block, but eventually you start to learn motion inputs to deal with more situations. Later you'll learn about different meter options like supers, faultless defense, and Roman cancels, further enhancing your performance. And then a dust button becomes part of your gameplay with grabs, sweeps, and the homing jump, which is still the coolest thing in any fighting game. And while you're picking up new techniques, your usage of old ones get better. And it's not like Guilty Gear lacks in learning fundamentals either. A good part of the learning experience for me was to learn to stop mashing during defensive situations, getting out of said tricky situations, learning which moves beat which, reacting to opponents' punishable options, and getting more consistent with motion inputs. Guilty Gear Strive not only has a rich skill sync, but also makes you understand your own improvement. Speaking of ceilings, let's talk about floors, specifically the ranks that Guilty Gear implements. Guilty Gear Strive divides the player base into 10 floors, with one special floor above it called Celestial. This is unlike a lot of previous ranking systems, where they have medals with divisions in it, which have tighter skill brackets. Some people think this suits competitive games more, but personally, I prefer how Strive does it. The diversity of skill levels will vary more between floors, and ranking up or down will be a lot more significant. Rather than needing to continually go into the most intense matches possible, there's a pacing between close battles to the death, games where you're gatekeeping someone who actually got sorted that they didn't belong in yet, and games where someone looking to rank up turns you into your step stool to climb to the next floor. And who knows, you might go against someone with a Celestial badge and one of the higher floors and see if you can make gods bleed. Either that, or be painfully reminded that you can always get better. However, it's hard to get into a fighting game when you don't really understand how it works. Thankfully, Guilty Gear has a great way of teaching new players the rules of the game. The main way Guilty Gear teaches you mechanics is through the missions, which take you through various techniques and skills you need to learn to succeed. It's separated into 5 categories, which can go from absolute basics to high execution techniques, and everything else in between. You can go at any level at any time, so you can go at your own pace. Stuck on a mission? No problem, just skip it and move on to the next one. Strive also makes motion inputs easier to understand by putting more emphasis on the motions in the character attack screens. It's hard to understand pressing certain directional inputs in a sequence, but doing a much motion is much easier to know. It's a small change that does wonders at ease someone who has never really played a real fighting game before. But enough talking about tutorials, let's talk about overall game flow. Guilty Gear Strive is a pretty unique game flow compared to other fighting games thanks to the wall system. In most fighting games, you have a wall that you can pin your enemy against to let your options land bigger combos. This was also the case with previous Guilty Gear games, but in Strive, the wall can be broken if you do enough damage to them while your back is pressed. A wall break does extra damage and gives you a positive bonus, which passively increases your meter. It also resets the game to neutral, which makes the aggressor get an advantage, but still gives the person who just got his defense crushed a chance to come back. This gives the mechanic a great flow of high advantage that still don't feel oppressive, which is further colored by the high damage of the game. Another mechanic that ties this is the homing attack, which is a high risk, high reward overhead that can cause you to go for easy damage and a positive bonus, or risk the positive bonus for a bigger combo. Once again, it resets the game to neutral. This is great because you're almost never completely locked out of playing the game. If your opponent carries you to the corner, that's fine, just try to get out. While broken, you're still in the game, and you're no longer in the corner. This is good for the learning experience, but you can spend more of your time learning the game and learning from your mistakes, further enhancing the experience. Plus, it makes sure you can't easily snowball a single one interaction into a guaranteed win, as the game will reset at one point or another. One more thing is that every hit in the game counts, and when I mean every, it's not the difference between losing and winning is a tiny bit of chip damage for a block super and one whiffed attack. This inherently makes all your decisions a lot more impactful and therefore much more rewarding. And while the gameplay mechanics lead to a great cycle of improvement, there's another aspect to play. It's not tied to anything physical, but rather the game as an artistic expression. With a lot of games, you want the gameplay to fit around the story and the general theming of the game. Ultra Kill is an exciting romp where you kill everything that moves, because there's nothing really left worth saving in the world. The Isolation is about wandering about a world trying to piece yourself back together while solving a murder case, so the gameplay is more about leveling up stats and navigating through dialogue. There is no exception with multiplayer games either. Left 4 Dead is a game about surviving through a zombie apocalypse that emphasizes the importance of other people, so the gameplay heavily revolves around the team. Counter-Strike is a military game, so the game mechanics are semi-realistic and focus a lot more on tactical action. Titanfall is about you being a super soldier with a giant mech, so it puts you in a battlefield with a bunch of grunts that easily kill to satisfy that fantasy. So what does Guilty Gear try about? Internal struggle. It may not make too much sense at first, considering that understanding the themes of Guilty Gear first require you to understand the story, which is a Herculean task. However, when you listen to a lot of the themes of the characters, you realize that the cast has gone through a lot. Robert B. Potemkin not knowing if any of his efforts will lead to a better future, Leo covering the fact that he has survivor's guilt by going absolutely unga bunga, which will either win him the game or finally end his life, or Salazar being out he can't really feel anything anymore. Granted, there are some themes that are a bit more optimistic, but most of the themes dive into these characters and their doubts, fears, worries for the future. Hence, internal struggle. And getting through ranks requires a lot of rethinking yourself, doubts, and devastating loss streaks that make you question if you should continue. In other words, a whole lot of internal struggle. I'm being a bit overdramatic, of course, but you get the idea. This is what makes ranked feel like the definitive experience of Strife, while other ranked games usually don't have this element. With Counter-Strike, you could argue the rigorous training required to get to the top fits the military fantasy of the game, but with games like Valorant or Overwatch, the themes of the game and the actual ranked experience clash. While in Valorant, someone calling a forfeit after losing the first few rounds isn't rare. In Guilty Gear Strife, there's no way to back out, because even though you may be at a sliver of health, your opponent still has burst and has that positive bonus, anything is still possible.
In the light, it's never over yesterday. I'm the time inside. Condemnation. I'm the time inside. I'm the time inside.
Overall, Guilty Gear is an incredibly satisfying game. It's the first game I've actually decided to grind the rank mode, and I've managed to reach a pretty good rank for myself. Improving at the game has been a great motivation to keep going, and I don't think I'll stop playing in the foreseeable future. I've also gotten better at dealing with losses, as during the rank of the script, I ended up going on a losing streak that got me knocked from floor 9 to 7, and ended up taking this much better than how I would while playing at the start. And hey, I ended up recovering back from my floor pretty quickly. Thanks for watching, tell what you think, and I'll see you next time.